Justice League 49, Cy Spurrier writing with Aaron Lopresti on the art, if I can speak properly. This is obviously continuing the arc that we started last time. It's not the ending, it's not a 2-issue arc, there's at least another issue of this afterwards.
I think in total he's doing 6 issues,
But
so it might be a 6-issue arc potentially.
Oh, it could be, alright. Interesting. Because I went into this thinking it might be just a 2-parter, and I obviously got to the end and I was like, oh, clearly not. But
yeah.
So this, I mean, I thought the last issue was enjoyable enough. This one is a bit more wordy, so I was maybe a little bit more less enthused as I was reading it.
Honestly, my complaint is pretty much the same as the last time, in that it puts Wonder Woman on a pedestal, which I don't mind. I like Wonder Woman being great, but at the expense of everyone else in the league. They all seem a bit lacking at her expense. Like, she's the only one who understands, and everyone else just comes across as a bit stupid.
Yeah, the framework of this issue is that Wonder Woman's telling this story about this ancient giant who was before the Amazons, and how she tried to solve this conflict between these two clans, and everything lines up to what the Justice League are doing here, and you kind of see how Flash makes this kind of the same mistake that this giant made first, and then how Superman makes a mistake, and then eventually Batman trying to speak to everyone makes the third mistake that she made, and how it just led to more civil wars, because then eventually the giant decided to back off and let them kind of govern themselves and not get too involved, let them kind of make their own rules and stuff. But that just led to wars. It led to conflict because they just didn't know what else to do. So, and a lot of this is just showing how the Justice League fall into these traps as they're going through these things.
And ultimately, the giant queen, Iskyria, I believe. Yes, Iskyria was overthrown by the people, essentially. And it's like, well, it's really predictable Wonder Woman was like, it's really predictable what's going to happen here. And lo and behold, it's kind of what happens at the end of the issue.
Yeah, they come. They're coming in the name of the the Empress who they took down last issue by the end. Mainly because the ship that was destroyed in space, because the team all fight these big drone ships that come in, and there was one ship of the people on the planet who they get destroyed, and they mistake something that happens afterwards as like an attack, because they think, oh, the enemy's got this big beam weapon, but it turns out it's actually this thing where if one of their ships die, they sort of get sent to the sun. It's like a sort of blaze of glory thing.
They think it's an energy beam being shot at the sun to, take it out, essentially.
Yeah.
But what it is the people of this planet, when they die, their souls return to their sun.
Yeah, think Viking funeral, but instead of water, the sun.
Yeah, except it's a physical thing.
Yeah.
Their souls do actually do this. There isn't any religious interpretation. It is a physical act.
It's kind of, again,
Superman, tries to block it, thinking it's an attack on the sun that's going to take it out, and Wonder Woman has to stop him. Again,
it's another example of them just not fully understanding the culture, the traditions, or even in this case the physicality of what happens when these creatures die. And then the cliffhanger is just like Batman's back at the control center, like calling shots and whatnot, and one person from each side, one of the synthetics, one of the
Cell and the Spark.
The Cell and the Spark, yeah. Mutants and cyborgs, basically. One of each show up and sort of say, you're warmongers, death to the alien aggressors. So now some people, at least some of the aliens, are starting to see the Justice League as the enemy, and that's kind of the cliffhanger that we leave off on.
And they're broadcasting what the Justice League are saying to each other in space, where they're like, oh, it's good to be heroes, not just rulers. This is what we were meant to be. But the way they're saying it to each other is, smashing things is a lot simpler than managing them. And that's being broadcast to the entire populace of the planet. So it's, not sounding great to everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, it's an okay enough read. It's kind of, the art's, again, fairly enjoyable to look at.
Given that there's like 2 artists on it, I think, or is it just just Lopresti?
Just Lopresti.
Okay, I thought there was another one on something, but maybe that was just somewhere else on the credits. I'm forgetting.
Yeah. There's a lot that, I mean, Batman's pose on the last page when he's getting shot by these laser beams is a little bit wonky in terms of his like chest and shoulders and sort of the general shape of everything.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's not the worst I've seen, but I agree it's a little bit off.
There's just a little bit. There's something just a little bit off about it. The stuff in space tends to be the best. I thought once Wonder Woman put on her mask again and they're all smashing stuff in space, it's fairly pleasing to look at. It's not as good as the last arc though, is the thing. Because the last arc had a lot of great big 2-page spreads. The art was definitely a bit more fancy and kind of elevated things, which admittedly was an otherwise kind of just mundane story.
And there was a couple of awkward beats that I've spoken about how Wonder Woman feels like a real outsider in the league right now, and that feels a little bit off. But another bit is John at the start does what he can. Basically, there was an energy blast at the end of last issue, if you recall, like a bomb coming towards the planet. And there was an explosion. That was the end of the last issue. That was the cliffhanger. John basically goes, I didn't have the energy to contain the blast, so I contained all the people instead and saved everyone. But then, like, for the next, 3 pages, John's just lying there unconscious on the floor, and not a single Justice League member goes to see if he's okay for, 3 pages until, Flash just carries him off. And that was really weird to me that no one kind of stopped what they were doing to check on him. And I don't mean I think Superman and Batman are talking with the others, and I get why they're carrying on. They're doing the diplomatic mission, so to speak. But it took pages until I think it's Flash that carries him off in the end. It took pages until that happened in the background of just a panel, and I thought that was bizarre that it took so long to go and help their comrade. And a few things like that felt strange in the issue to me. Like I said, that Wonder Woman just being such an outsider, and everyone else not feeling like they're bad guys, so to speak, but they're wrong.
Yeah,
and it's not bad. I still like it. I'm enjoying the read. It's just a little frustrating in that it feels a little uneven.
No, I can't really disagree. It's so boring to just kind of shrug and go, well, it's kind of a middling story, and just sort of leave it there, because you kind of can dig into it a little bit and maybe kind of deconstruct why it feels that way.
I think that's the frustrating part, is that it doesn't feel just like, oh, it's just a fill-in story doing nothing. It's trying to do something. It is. And so I'm trying to give it that level of respect that it wants, that it's trying to achieve for. And just some of it's just not quite landing, which is it's almost worse than it not trying.
It's funny because I feel like if we had more books right now, we were just talking about how there's actually less books overall right now. This might be. I might have followed Matt's lead and just sort of left it for a while until there was like a proper creative team announced for it. But right now it's like
it's a combination of the next arc being a fill in on Metal, which I'm into. Well, not the next arc. There's a 2-issue arc for this, but the next main chunk is a tie into Metal, which I'm really into right now. Plus the fact this is on a week where I only have 5 books in total.
Yeah.
If this was on a busy week, it would be a different matter entirely.
Yeah, I only had 4. I mean, I had a Patreon book, but I only had 4 new books myself. So it was kind of like, well, yeah, I'll read it. Why not? I mean, there's really not much of an effort at this point, unless it was actively like.
If this was on a week where there was 8 books, I might be considering not bothering with.
Unless
this.
it was actively, maybe painful's too harsh a word, but if it was actively unenjoyable to read, then fair enough. As it is, it was fine. I'm happy enough to read the next one. I just wouldn't expect these Justice League discussions to be super lengthy or exciting until the Metal tie-in starts.
I agree. It's not a bad issue though. There are things I like in this, and the art I think is really solid. Like Lopresti's really good at what he does, and I don't think it's as good as what we had in the last arc. I agree, where the art was really carrying that.
Yeah, but I think
it's enjoyable enough.
The end result, though, is that I think I enjoyed the last arc more, even though the story was just fluff. Because I was constantly going ooh and ah at the art, I think I enjoyed that more than this, where I'm just kind of like, the story's okay and it's kind of murky and it's trying to do something and it's kind of.
I would say, barring the one issue where Venditti's run was fight, it's the Spectre, and then I must fight you over it 3 times in the issue. Barring that one issue. Everything in Venditti's run was better than this.
Yeah. So, hey, what are you giving it?
I'll give it a 6.5.
Yeah, let's give it a straight 6, I think. It's fine.